Tonight, you are not a king, nor a hero whose name will be remembered. You are simply a soldier in the ancient world. There are no songs being sung about you, no grand stories waiting to be told. Only the quiet, stretching gently across the evening. You sit on the ground, the earth still warm from the fading sun beneath you. The air carries a faint trace of dust, mixed with the soft scent of leather and worn fabric. Your armor rests beside you, not discarded, but carefully placed, as if even now it still demands respect. For a long moment, you do nothing at all. You simply breathe, slowly in and slowly out. Around you, the camp is beginning to settle, not into silence, but into something softer. Low voices drift through the air, quiet and distant, blending together until they become almost meaningless. No one speaks too loudly. No one laughs for long. It is a different kind of evening, the kind that comes just before something unknown. You shift slightly, adjusting your weight, feeling the gentle pull of tired muscles. The day has been long, longer than most. But now, there is nowhere else to go. Nothing left to prepare, at least not yet. So you remain where you are, watching as the last light of day slowly fades. The sky above you deepens, from pale gold to a softer shade of blue, and then darker still. Time seems to stretch here, unhurried, uncertain. You are only one among many, another face in the dim light, another pair of hands resting quietly in your lap. And for now, in this quiet moment, before everything changes, there is only stillness. Tonight, you are not a king, nor a hero whose name will be remembered. You are simply a soldier in the ancient world. There are no songs being sung about you, no grand stories waiting to be told. Only the quiet, stretching gently across the evening. You sit on the ground, the earth still holding a trace of warmth from the fading sun beneath you. The air carries a faint scent of dust, mixed with leather and something older, something worn by many days of marching. Your armor rests beside you, not carelessly, but with quiet intention, as if even now it asks not to be forgotten. For a while, you do nothing at all. You simply breathe, slowly in and slowly out. Around you, the camp begins to settle, not into silence, but into something softer. Low voices drift through the air, distant, blending together until they lose their meaning. No one speaks too loudly. No one laughs for long. It is a different kind of evening, the kind that arrives just before something unknown. You shift slightly, adjusting your weight, feeling the slow pull of tired muscles. The day has been long, longer than most. And now, there is nowhere else to go, nothing urgent left to do. So you remain where you are, watching as the last light of day quietly fades. The sky above you deepens from pale gold into a softer blue, and then darker still. Time stretches here, unhurried, almost suspended. You are only one among many, another quiet presence in the dimming light. And as the shadows grow longer and the evening gently settles over the camp, you begin to notice how everything around you is slowly coming to rest. As more soldiers arrive and the camp itself begins to take shape. As more soldiers arrive and the camp itself begins to take shape, you notice it first in small ways. A figure passing slowly in front of you, carrying a bundle of wood. Another, lowering himself carefully onto the ground, letting out a quiet breath as he settles. No one rushes. There is no urgency now, only a slow unfolding. You lift your gaze slightly, taking in more of what surrounds you. The camp is not neatly arranged, not perfect, but familiar in its own quiet way. Tents rise unevenly from the earth, some already secured, others still being adjusted. Wooden stakes pressed into the soil, ropes pulled tight, then loosened, then tightened again. Simple movements, repeated without thought. You watch as one soldier kneels near his tent, brushing away small stones from where he will rest. Another folds a worn piece of cloth, smoothing it carefully, as if the act itself brings some small comfort. There is a rhythm here, unspoken but shared, each man knowing what to do without needing to be told. A faint sound of fabric shifting in the evening air, mixing with the soft thud of footsteps against dry ground. Somewhere nearby, metal touches metal, a quiet, careful sound, not sharp, not loud. You shift your position slightly, your hands pressing into the earth for balance. From where you sit, you can see more now, rows forming, slowly, not in perfect lines, but close enough. A place for rest, a place to wait. The last light continues to fade, and with it the outlines of things soften. Edges blur, details fade into shadow. And as you watch the camp settle into its quiet shape, your attention begins to drift closer, back toward yourself, to the simple act of setting down what you carry.
To the simple act of setting down what you carry. For a moment, you remain still. Then, slowly, you reach for your shield. Your fingers curl around its edge, familiar, worn smooth in places from long use. You lift it just enough to move it aside, not far, only a short distance, where it can still be reached without effort. It rests there now, leaning gently against the ground, close, but no longer weighing on you. Next, your helmet. You pause before removing it, as if your body has grown used to its presence. Then, with a small shift, you lift it away. Cool air brushes lightly against your skin, a quiet relief, almost unnoticed at first. You set the helmet down beside your shield, turning it slightly so it does not roll. Everything placed with care, everything where it should be. Your shoulders lower, just a little, not completely relaxed, but no longer held so tightly. You roll them once, slowly, feeling the stiffness there. The weight you carried through the day, now gone, but not entirely forgotten. It lingers, in your muscles, in the way you move. You adjust your position again, stretching one leg, then the other. The ground beneath you is uneven, but firm. It does not change, it does not move, and in that, there is something steady. Around you, others are doing the same, quietly setting things down. A shield placed here, a bundle lowered there. Soft, careful movements, repeated again and again. No one speaks of it, no one needs to. It is simply what is done at the end of a long day. And as your hands come to rest, empty now, you begin to notice the slow heaviness settling into your body, the kind that comes only after many hours of marching. The kind that comes only after many hours of marching. It settles slowly. Not all at once, but in quiet layers. First in your legs, a dull heaviness, as if each step you took has left something behind. Then in your back, a gentle ache, stretching from your shoulders down to where you sit. You do not resist it. There is no need. You simply let it be there. Your hands rest loosely now, no longer gripping, no longer holding.
Even your breathing feels different. Slower, deeper. The kind of breath that comes when there is finally time to take it. You tilt your head slightly, feeling a faint stiffness in your neck. A small reminder of the weight that had been there only moments ago. The helmet, the shield, the steady pressure of responsibility. Now gone, but not entirely. It lingers, quietly. Around you, the same stillness spreads. Men shifting their weight, stretching tired limbs, lowering themselves closer to the ground. No one speaks of exhaustion, but it is there, shared, understood without words. A soft exhale escapes someone nearby. Another leans back, resting on his hands, looking up at the darkening sky. No one rushes to move again. There is nowhere else to be. The day has already taken what it needed, and now it gives nothing more. You close your eyes, just for a moment, not to sleep, not yet, only to rest them, to let the dim light fade completely, even if for only a few seconds. And when you open them again, everything feels slightly quieter, softer, as if the world itself has slowed. Your body sinks just a little deeper into the ground beneath you, and your awareness begins to shift outward once more, toward the others sitting quietly nearby. At first, you do not look directly. Your gaze drifts slowly, without urgency, moving from one small detail to another. A hand resting on a knee, a pair of sandals set neatly beside their owner. The faint outline of a figure seated not far from you, head slightly lowered. No one draws attention to themselves. No one needs to. You lift your eyes just a little more, enough to see faces now, though not clearly. The light is fading, and shadows soften the lines. Still, you can tell. Each man carries the same quiet weight, not spoken, not shown openly, but present, in the stillness, in the way they sit, in the way they breathe. One soldier leans forward, elbows resting on his legs, hands loosely clasped. Another sits upright, unmoving, as if conserving energy without thinking. Nearby, someone adjusts a piece of cloth around his shoulders, pulling it closer as the air begins to cool. Small movements, unimportant, and yet somehow meaningful. You notice how no one speaks for a while, not because they cannot, but because there is nothing that needs to be said. The quiet between you all feels natural, shared without effort, a kind of understanding that does not require words. You shift slightly, your hand brushing against the ground. The texture of the earth is rough, dry, familiar. It reminds you that this place, like many before it, is only temporary. And yet, for this moment, it holds all of you, together, but separate, each in your own thoughts, each in your own stillness. And as you sit there, among them, without speaking, you begin to notice a soft glow appearing nearby, as the first campfires are carefully brought to life. As the first campfires are carefully brought to light. At first, it is only a small flicker, barely noticeable, a quiet movement of light against the growing dark. Then another, a little farther away, and another still. One by one, the fires begin to appear, scattered across the camp like distant stars brought down to the earth. You watch as a soldier crouches low, shielding a fragile flame with his hands. For a moment, it struggles. Then it catches. A soft glow spreads outward, touching the edges of nearby objects, bringing them gently into view. The ground, the fabric of a tent, the curve of a shield. Nothing sharp, nothing sudden, only a slow return of light. The air shifts slightly as thin trails of smoke begin to rise, drifting upward, dissolving into the darkening sky. There is a faint crackle now, soft, steady, almost rhythmic. You find yourself listening to it without thinking. The sound repeats, again and again, never quite the same, yet always familiar. You move a little closer to the warmth, not because you must, but because it feels natural. The heat is gentle, not strong, just enough to notice. It settles against your skin, easing the coolness that has begun to gather in the evening air. Around you, others do the same. Small groups form, loosely, without plan. No one calls anyone over, no one gives direction. It simply happens. A quiet gathering. Faces now touched by firelight, half seen, half hidden. Shadows move slowly, stretching and shifting with each small movement of the flame. You watch them for a while, the way they flicker, the way they change, never staying still. And as the fire settles into a steady glow, your attention drifts downward, toward the simple need for food and the quiet preparation that follows. Toward the simple need for food and the quiet preparation that follows. There is no rush to eat, no shared announcement, only a slow, natural movement as each man begins to reach for what he has been given. A small bundle is opened near your side. Inside, simple provisions. Bread that has grown firm with time. A few pieces of dried meat. Perhaps something that once carried a stronger flavor, now softened by necessity rather than taste. You take a piece of bread in your hand. It feels solid, slightly rough at the edges. You turn it once, slowly, before breaking it. The sound is faint, barely more than a quiet crack. You bring it to your mouth and take a slow bite. Nothing about it is hurried. Nothing about it is meant to be enjoyed in the way a feast would be. And yet, it is enough. Around you, others do the same. A hand reaching into a pouch. A piece of food being passed from one palm to another. No one counts what they have. No one compares. The firelight continues to move gently across their faces, making expressions appear, then disappear. You chew slowly, feeling the simple texture, the dryness softened only slightly by water. A small skin or container is lifted nearby. Someone takes a sip, then passes it back down without a word. The rhythm is quiet, practical, familiar. You rest your elbows lightly against your knees as you eat, leaning forward just enough to stay comfortable. The world feels smaller here, contained, not by walls, but by light, by silence, by the shared act of simply sitting and eating. A soldier nearby breaks his bread into smaller pieces before eating them one by one, slowly, without looking up. No one speaks of tomorrow. No one speaks of the past. Only this moment exists. And as you finish a small portion, you pause, holding the remaining piece in your hand, as the camp settles even deeper into its evening rhythm. As the camp settles even deeper into its evening rhythm, the fire continues to burn steadily now, no longer struggling, no longer uncertain. It has found its shape. Around it, the small sounds of eating continue in a slow, quiet pattern. You notice how little is said, not because words are forbidden, but because they are not needed. A soldier a short distance away shifts slightly and breaks off a piece of his food. He pauses for a moment, then looks toward another man sitting nearby. Without speaking, he offers it, a simple gesture. The other accepts it with a small nod, just enough to acknowledge it, and nothing more. No gratitude is spoken aloud. It does not need to be. The exchange is enough on its own. You lower your gaze again to your own hands. The remaining piece of bread feels smaller now, softened slightly by warmth and handling. You take another bite, slower this time, not because you are hungry in a strong way, but because it is what is done here, in this moment. Nearby, someone adjusts their position closer to the fire, pulling their cloak tighter around their shoulders. The fabric shifts softly, brushing against the ground. Another soldier leans back slightly, resting on one arm now, looking into the fire without focus. The flames move constantly, never still, yet never loud, just present, just enough light to hold the camp together. You notice how the shared silence between everyone is not empty. It is full in its own way, full of breathing, full of small movements, full of unspoken understanding. No one is alone here, and yet no one is intruding on another. Each person remains within their own space, their own thoughts, their own quiet rhythm. You finish what remains in your hand and let your fingers rest loosely in your lap. The act of eating slows now, naturally, as if the camp itself is gently guiding everything towards stillness. And as the last small motions of food and hands begin to fade, your awareness drifts towards something simpler, toward thirst and the slow comfort of water.
Toward thirst and the slow comfort of water. It is not a sharp feeling, not urgent, more like a quiet awareness that has been present for a while, gently waiting to be noticed. You reach for a small container near your side. It feels cool against your fingers. Simple, worn, familiar. You lift it slowly, turning it slightly as if remembering its weight before bringing it closer. Around you, others are doing the same. Some already drink, small, careful sips, taken without hurry. You tilt the container just enough. The water moves quietly inside, a soft sound almost like distant rain. You take a sip. Slow, measured. It is not cold in a striking way, but it carries relief all the same, a quiet easing of dryness you hadn't fully focused on until now. You lower it again, holding it in both hands for a moment. The feeling is enough. Nearby, a soldier wipes his mouth gently with the back of his hand and places his container back down beside him. Another holds his a little longer, as if waiting before returning it to the ground. No one drinks more than they need. There is no excess here, only what is necessary. The firelight flickers across the surface of the containers, catching on small marks and dents, signs of long use, of many days like this one. You notice how water, something so simple, becomes quietly important in a place like this, not spoken about, not valued loudly, but always respected. You set your container down carefully. The sound it makes against the earth is soft, quickly absorbed by the surrounding quiet. For a moment, your hands remain near it, then slowly relax again into your lap. The thirst does not vanish completely. It simply softens, becomes part of the background of your awareness. And as your breathing steadies once more, your attention drifts to the small repetitive tasks that always follow a day like this, toward the quiet work of cleaning and caring for what you carry.
Toward the quiet work of cleaning and caring for what you carry. It begins without thought, a natural continuation of everything that came before. You reach for your blade first, not quickly, not sharply, but with steady hands. It is already familiar to you, its weight, its balance, the worn places along the grip. You take a small cloth from your side and begin to wipe it slowly. The motion is simple. Forward, then back. Again and again. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent. Just care. Around you, others are doing the same. Some with spears resting across their knees, others with short blades held close to the firelight. No one speaks. The only sounds are soft movements, fabric against metal, the faint shiftings of bodies on the ground, and the steady crackle of fire nearby. You turn the blade slightly, letting the firelight pass over its surface. It reflects in a dull way, not bright, but steady, a tool that has seen many days. You run the cloth along its edge with caution, not because danger is present, but because habit has taught respect. Nearby, a soldier checks the bindings of his gear, tightening a strap, then loosening it slightly, then adjusting it again until it feels right. Another inspects the edge of his shield, brushing away dust from its surface with slow, careful strokes. Everything is done in pieces, one small task at a time. There is no need to finish quickly. The night is long enough for everything. You pause briefly, holding the blade still in your hand. For a moment, you simply look at it, not as a weapon, but as something that has traveled with you through many silent days. Then you continue. Another slow wipe, another quiet motion. And as the cleaning continues around you, the camp remains wrapped in its steady calm, while your attention begins to drift toward the small, repeated habits that fill the time between tasks. While your attention begins to drift toward the small, repeated habits that fill the time between tasks, because there is always something else to adjust, something else to check, even when nothing truly needs fixing. You set the blade down for a moment, then pick it up again, almost without thinking, not out of necessity, but out of rhythm. Around you, the same pattern continues. A soldier rewraps the cloth around his arm, pauses, then unwraps it again, as if unsure whether it is quite right. Another repositions his gear beside him, shifting it a few inches to the left, then a few inches back to where it was. No one seems hurried. No one seems disturbed by repetition. It is simply what the evening becomes, a space where small actions fill the silence. You adjust the strap of your own equipment again. It was already fine. It always was. But your hands do it anyway. Familiar movements, steady and calm. The fire nearby shifts slightly as a breeze passes through the camp. Flames lean for a moment, then return upright, continuing their quiet dance. You notice how easily the night allows these small patterns to exist. Nothing interrupts them. Nothing demands more. A soldier nearby lets out a soft breath and leans forward again, resting his elbows on his knees. He does not look tired in a dramatic way, just settled, like everything about him has slowed to match the world around him. You place your hands loosely in your lap again, still, then not still. One finger moves slightly, then stops. Even that feels part of the same rhythm. There is no need to decide when to stop these small actions. They simply fade on their own, one by one, like embers losing heat. And as the repetition begins to ease, your gaze slowly lifts away from your hands, toward the changing colors of the sky above the camp. Toward the changing colors of the sky above the camp. It is no longer the bright sky of the day. That has already gone. What remains is something softer, quieter, more uncertain. The last traces of light fade slowly at the edge of the horizon, as if the world itself is reluctant to let them go. You look upward without moving much, just your eyes lifting. The air feels cooler now, not cold, but different from before. A shift you only notice when you stay still long enough. Around you, the camp continues its quiet rhythm, but your attention is drawn away from it for a moment. Upward, higher. The sky deepens. Faint colors stretch across it, muted blues blending into gray, then slowly into a darker shade that feels heavier, more complete. No stars are clear yet, only the beginnings of them, distant and uncertain, like small thoughts forming in the dark. You breathe in slowly. The air feels still here, balanced between what has passed and what has not yet begun. A soldier nearby glances upward too, then lowers his gaze again without comment. No one points, no one speaks of it. The sky does not need to be shared. It is simply there, above everyone equally. You tilt your head slightly back again. A quiet moment of observation, nothing more. The firelight below contrasts gently with the dimming sky above, creating a soft boundary between earth and air, warmth and coolness, presence and distance. For a brief time, it feels like everything is suspended, as if the world has paused, just slightly, before continuing. And in that pause, your thoughts drift without direction, carried not by urgency, but by stillness itself, toward the fading edge of the evening, where sound becomes less certain, and silence begins to deepen around the camp. Toward the fading edge of the evening, where sound becomes less certain, and silence begins to deepen around the camp. It does not happen all at once. There is no clear moment where everything becomes quiet. Instead, it arrives slowly, like a blanket being placed over the world without anyone noticing. The voices that were once scattered through the camp begin to fade. One conversation ends, then another. A final few words are spoken somewhere nearby, then even those dissolve into silence. You realize only afterward that you are no longer hearing much at all, just the fire, just the wind, just the occasional shift of someone moving where they sit. The camp feels different now, not smaller, but softer, as if the edges of everything have been gently smoothed. You remain where you are, still, listening to nothing in particular. The fire beside you continues its steady rhythm, but even it feels quieter now, as though it is no longer competing with anything else. Around you, shapes become less distinct, men settling down more fully, some lying back slowly, others pulling cloaks closer around their shoulders. The details blur slightly as the light weakens. You adjust your position once more, then stop. There is no reason to move again. The ground beneath you feels steady, familiar, unchanging. Above, the sky has deepened further, and the last traces of color from earlier are nearly gone. What remains is a quiet darkness that does not feel empty, only complete. You become aware of your own breathing again, slow, even, matching the stillness around you. And in this growing quiet, something subtle happens. Not a change in the world, but in your awareness of it. Everything begins to feel farther away, as if the night itself is slowly drawing the camp inward toward rest. As if the night itself is slowly drawing the camp inward toward rest. Even though everything feels quieter now, the world is not completely silent. It has simply changed its sounds. You notice it when you stop trying to listen. The fire still speaks in soft, irregular cracks, wood shifting, embers settling, a gentle rhythm that never repeats the same way twice. Beyond that, there is the wind, not strong, not forceful, just present, moving lightly through the edges of the camp, brushing against tent cloth, causing small, almost unnoticeable movements. Occasionally, something shifts nearby. A strap adjusting as someone turns in their sleep, or a piece of equipment settling into the ground. Very small sounds, easy to miss if you are not paying attention. And yet, in the quiet of the night, they become part of everything. You do not look toward each sound. There is no need. You simply notice them and let them pass. Your body remains still, comfortably so. The earlier weight of the day has not disappeared, but it has softened into something easier to carry. Around you, the shapes of others are now mostly still, some lying on their sides, some on their backs, some barely visible beyond the firelight's reach. The camp feels like it is breathing slowly as a whole, not one person, but many, together in the same rhythm. You blink slowly. The air feels slightly cooler again, but not uncomfortable, just enough to be noticed. The firelight flickers across the ground in front of you, making moving patterns that fade and return without purpose. You watch them for a moment without thinking, then stop watching. Your attention drifts again, not outward this time, but inward, not toward memory, not toward thought, but toward the quiet space where thoughts begin to form without being fully shaped. As if the night itself is slowly drawing the camp inward, toward rest. Even though everything feels quieter now, the world is not completely silent. It has simply changed its sounds. You notice it when you stop trying to listen. The fire still speaks in soft, irregular cracks, wood shifting, embers settling, a gentle rhythm that never repeats the same way twice. Beyond that, there is the wind, not strong, not forceful, just present, moving lightly through the edges of the camp, brushing against tent cloth, causing small, almost unnoticeable movements. Occasionally, something shifts nearby. A strap adjusting as someone turns in their sleep, or a piece of equipment settling into the ground. Very small sounds, easy to miss if you are not paying attention. And yet, in the quiet of the night, they become part of everything. You do not look toward each sound. There is no need. You simply notice them and let them pass. Your body remains still, comfortably so. The earlier weight of the day has not disappeared, but it has softened into something easier to carry. Around you, the shapes of others are now mostly still, some lying on their sides, some on their backs, some barely visible beyond the firelight's reach. The camp feels like it is breathing slowly as a whole, not one person, but many, together in the same rhythm. You blink slowly. The air feels slightly cooler again, but not uncomfortable, just enough to be noticed. The firelight flickers across the ground in front of you, making moving patterns that fade and return without purpose. You watch them for a moment without thinking, then stop watching. Your attention drifts again, not outward this time, but inward, not toward memory, not toward thought, but toward the quiet space where thoughts begin to form without being fully shaped. Toward things that are not spoken aloud, and rarely fully formed even in the mind. There is a kind of silence inside you that feels different from the silence around you. Deeper, more private. In it, thoughts appear that you do not shape into words. They remain unfinished, like letters that were never written. You think of people, not clearly at first, just the feeling of them. A place that feels distant now. A time that does not sit easily with where you are tonight. You do not focus on details. Instead, you let the impressions come and fade. The sense of a voice that once spoke to you without urgency. The memory of sitting somewhere far from here, where the air felt different and time moved in a way that no longer feels familiar. None of it arrives fully, and none of it stays long enough to become heavy. Around you, the camp remains still. The fire continues its gentle work, but even its light feels softer now, less demanding of attention. You rest your hands loosely in your lap again. They are calm, not tired, just still. A thought begins to form, but it does not complete itself. It dissolves halfway through, leaving only a feeling behind. You do not try to rebuild it. There is no effort to hold anything in place. Another thought follows, then fades as well, like writing on sand that is slowly being smoothed away. The night does not interrupt these thoughts. It simply allows them to exist and then lets them go. You take a slow breath in, then out again. Even the act of remembering feels softer here, less like reaching backward and more like noticing something passing by. And as these unspoken impressions continue to drift through your awareness, they begin to settle into something quieter still, something not quite memory, not quite thought, but something in between. Something not quite memory, not quite thought, but something in between. In that quiet space, old beliefs begin to surface. Not spoken loudly, not argued or explained, just present. Things you have heard over time, in passing, from others who sat in the same kind of nights. Small habits, quiet meanings attached to ordinary objects. A soldier might touch a small charm before resting, not because it changes anything in a clear way, but because it feels like something should be done, something familiar, something steady. You think of how people, in many places, carry these quiet rituals with them. A phrase repeated under the breath, a brief pause before stepping forward, a moment of stillness before sleep. None of it is certain, none of it is required, and yet it is done. Around you there are subtle signs of the same thing. A man adjusts something near his belt and holds it for a second longer than necessary. Another briefly presses his hand against a worn piece of cloth before letting it rest again. No one draws attention to these actions. They exist quietly, alongside everything else. You do not question them. Not here. Not tonight. The night feels like a place where such things can exist without explanation, where meaning does not need to be proven, only felt. You sit a little deeper into stillness, noticing how the firelight continues to flicker without pattern. It does not judge. It does not respond. It simply burns. And in its presence, these small beliefs feel less like ideas and more like habits shaped by time. You take a slow breath. Nothing changes. And yet, something inside the quiet feels slightly more settled than before, as if the act of simply being here has already answered more than any question could. And as your gaze slowly drifts upward again, the night above the camp begins to open up into something larger and more distant, beyond the reach of words. Your eyes lift slowly into the sky again. This time, it feels darker than before. Not empty, but wide. A kind of darkness that does not press down, but expands outward, as if it has no edges at all. And within it, the first faint stars begin to appear. Not all at once. One, then another, then many more slowly revealing themselves as your eyes adjust. They do not feel close. They feel distant in a way that is hard to describe, as if they belong to something far beyond the camp, beyond the land itself. You do not count them. You simply notice them, small points of light scattered across an endless space, some brighter than others, some barely visible unless you look directly at them, and even then, they seem to soften when you try to hold them in focus. Around you, the camp remains quiet, but it feels even quieter now, as if the sky above has taken some of the attention away from everything on the ground. You breathe slowly, letting your gaze rest there without effort. There is no urgency in the stars, no movement that can be followed, only stillness, extended far beyond where you are sitting. A faint breeze passes through the camp again, but it feels smaller now against the vastness above. You blink once, slowly. The stars remain, unchanged, unmoved. It is difficult to think of anything in a structured way while looking at them. Thoughts soften again, becoming less formed, more open, like the night itself has stretched your awareness into something quieter. You lower your gaze slightly, but not fully, still seeing them in the upper edge of your vision, still aware they are there. And in that gentle space between earth and sky, between fire and darkness, your breathing becomes the only thing that feels fully present. Your breathing becomes the only thing that feels fully present. And yet, even in this stillness, something begins to return. Not loudly, not suddenly, just a thought forming at the edge of awareness. Tomorrow. The word itself feels distant at first, almost disconnected from where you are sitting now. It does not arrive with images of action or urgency. Instead, it comes as a quiet awareness that the night will not last forever. You do not focus on what tomorrow will bring, not fully. The mind does not hold on to it tightly, it simply acknowledges it, like a shadow passing across the edge of the campfire light. Around you, others remain still, some already asleep, others resting without fully sleeping. The camp does not react to the thought of tomorrow. It continues as it is, steady, unchanged. You shift slightly, adjusting your shoulders, and then settle again. The movement is slow enough that it feels part of the stillness rather than a break in it. The idea of tomorrow remains, but it does not grow. It does not demand attention. It simply exists in the background, like the faintest sound you are not sure you heard. You look again toward the fire. Its glow is softer now, lower than before, as if it too is preparing for what comes next without needing to say it. There is no fear in the thought. Not tonight. Only awareness. The understanding that time continues whether you focus on it or not. A soldier nearby turns slightly in his sleep, then becomes still again. Even that movement feels distant. You take a slow breath in and let it out. Tomorrow is not here. It is not now. And for this moment, that is enough. The night remains where it is, holding everything gently in place, while your awareness drifts back into the simple rhythm of waiting without needing to name what comes next. Your awareness drifts back into the simple rhythm of waiting. And slowly, something inside that awareness loosens. Not in a dramatic way, not like a decision being made, more like a quiet acceptance settling into place. There are things you cannot shape here, things that will happen whether you think about them or not. This understanding does not arrive as a sudden realization. It has been with you for a long time in different forms. Tonight, it simply feels clearer. You sit with it without resistance.
without trying to turn it into something else. Around you, the camp remains unchanged. Firelight continues to flicker in steady, fading patterns. Shadows move gently across the ground, then pause, then move again. Everything continues in its own rhythm. You adjust your hands slightly in your lap. A small movement, unimportant. And yet it reminds you that you are still here, still part of this quiet moment. Uncertainty does not feel sharp tonight. It feels present, like the air itself. Not something you can remove, but something you can exist within. You think of how many nights must feel like this. Not just here, but everywhere. Where people sit quietly before something unknown, not knowing outcomes, not holding answers. Only time passing slowly between now and whatever comes next. A breath moves through you again, steady and even. You do not try to resolve anything. There is nothing to resolve in this moment. The sky above remains wide and unchanged, holding its distant stars without concern. And in that distance, there is a kind of comfort. Not in certainty, but in the fact that everything continues regardless. The camp remains still. You remain still with it. And the uncertainty, once something that might have felt heavy, now simply rests beside you, like another quiet presence in the night.
Your attention returns slowly to the fire beside you. It is smaller now, not gone, but no longer strong. The flames that once moved with steady energy have softened, lowering closer to the wood beneath them. They rise, then fall, then rise again, each movement a little quieter than before. You do not move closer, you simply watch. There is something steady in the way the fire changes. It does not rush to disappear. It does not resist the night. It simply becomes less, little by little. The light it gives off is warmer now, softer, touching only what is near. Beyond that, everything fades into shadow. You notice how the shapes around you have grown less defined. The edges of tents, the outlines of resting figures, all blending gently into the dark. A small piece of wood shifts in the fire. There is a quiet crack, followed by a brief glow as an ember brightens, then dims again. Nothing sudden, nothing sharp, just a slow continuation. You rest your arms more comfortably against your legs, leaning slightly forward. The warmth reaches you, but only lightly now, just enough to be felt. Around you, others remain still, most no longer moving at all. The camp has settled into a deeper layer of quiet. Even the wind feels softer, as if it too has slowed with the night. You blink slowly, your gaze still resting on the fire. There is no need to follow each movement, no need to hold your attention tightly. The fading light feels familiar, predictable in its own quiet way. And as the last small flames begin to lower even further, becoming more glow than flame, you find your awareness drifting once more, away from the fire, and toward the still figures resting nearby, as sleep begins to take hold of the camp around you.
It happens quietly, so quietly that you almost don't notice when the last bits of movement begin to fade. One by one, the figures around you settle completely. A man who had been leaning forward slowly lowers himself onto his side. Another, who sat unmoving for a long time, finally shifts, stretching out onto the ground with careful ease. No one announces it. No one marks the moment. Sleep simply arrives and is accepted.
You remain where you are, watching without really focusing. The shapes of those around you grow softer in the dim light. Breathing becomes the most noticeable sound now. Slow, steady, shared. A quiet rhythm moving through the camp. You hear someone exhale more deeply than before, then grow still. Another shifts slightly, then stops. After that, nothing. Only the faint crackle of embers remains. You adjust your position just enough to feel comfortable, then become still again. There is no pressure to sleep immediately, no expectation. You are simply here as others drift away into rest. The space between each sound feels longer now, more complete, as if the night has stretched itself to hold everything gently in place. You lower your gaze toward the ground for a moment, then lift it again without intention. There is no clear focus, only awareness, a shared stillness that feels calm, undisturbed. Even the idea of movement seems distant now, unnecessary. And as you sit among those who have already slipped into sleep, your own body begins to follow, not suddenly, but gradually, as the quiet around you deepens into something even softer, something closer to rest.
You feel it in small ways at first. A slight heaviness behind your eyes. A slower rhythm in your breathing. Nothing that forces you to sleep, only an invitation. You shift your weight carefully, lowering yourself a little more toward the ground, not all at once, just enough to ease the tension in your back. Your hands move to a more comfortable place, resting loosely beside you. The earth beneath you feels firm, but not unkind. You adjust once, then again, each movement smaller than the last, until there is nothing left to change. Around you, the camp remains still. No new sounds, no new movement, only the quiet presence of others already at rest. You close your eyes for a moment, not fully committing to sleep, just letting them rest. Darkness settles in behind them, soft and even. You open them again briefly. The fire is now only a low glow, barely lighting the space around it. Then you close your eyes once more. This time, a little longer. Your thoughts do not disappear, but they slow, becoming less defined, less insistent. You notice your breathing again, in and out, steady, unchanged. You do not try to control it. You let it continue on its own. A faint movement passes through the camp, perhaps someone shifting in their sleep, but it does not draw your attention for long. Everything feels distant now, muted. You sink a little deeper into stillness. Not fully asleep, not fully awake. Somewhere in between. And as that gentle state begins to hold you, your awareness softens even further, drifting quietly toward a place where thoughts no longer need to form at all.
It is not quite sleep, not yet, but it is no longer full awareness either. You rest somewhere in between. Your body feels heavier now, settled into the ground without effort. Each breath comes and goes without your attention. You do not follow it anymore. It simply happens. Your thoughts lose their shape. What once felt like separate ideas now blend together, soft and indistinct. Images begin to appear, but they do not stay long. A place, a sound, a feeling, then nothing, then something else. There is no sequence, no order,
only a quiet flow that carries you without direction. You are still aware of the world around you, but only faintly. The camp, the others, the fading warmth of the fire. All of it feels distant now, as if it belongs to another layer of experience. Your body does not move. There is no need. Even small adjustments feel unnecessary. Comfort has already been found, not through action, but through stillness. The ground supports you without question. The night holds everything in place. A brief sound passes somewhere far away, but it does not reach you fully. It fades before it can take form. You drift deeper, not downward, but inward, into a space where time feels less defined, where moments do not follow one another clearly. Your awareness becomes lighter, softer, more open. And in that quiet, half-formed state, you no longer think of where you are or what comes next. There is only this calm, this gentle distance from everything. And as the last clear edges of thought continue to fade, your body settles completely into rest, while the night slowly begins to shift towards something new. You do not notice the change immediately. It arrives quietly, like everything else. A subtle difference in the air, a slight coolness against your skin. Not enough to wake you fully, only enough to be felt somewhere in the background. Your body remains at rest, still, heavy, settled. But the warmth that once lingered from the fire has faded. In its place, a softer, cooler presence spreads through the camp. You shift slightly without opening your eyes. A small movement, almost automatic. Your arm adjusts. Your shoulders draw in just a little. Not from discomfort, but from the natural response to the changing air. Around you, others remain still, wrapped in cloaks, curled into themselves, holding on to warmth without waking. The ground beneath you feels cooler now too, more noticeable than before. Yet it does not disturb you. It simply becomes part of the moment. Your breathing continues, slow and even, unchanged by the shift. Somewhere nearby, a faint sound breaks the silence. Very small, perhaps someone adjusting in their sleep, or fabric moving softly against the ground. Then stillness returns. The sky above has not yet changed in a way you can see, but something about the night feels different, less deep, less complete, as if it has begun to loosen its hold, preparing to give way. You remain between sleep and waking, not fully aware, but not entirely gone, suspended gently in that quiet space. And in that stillness, the cool air continues to move lightly through the camp, carrying with it the first subtle signs that the night is nearing its end. At first, it is only a small change, barely enough to notice. A slight shift somewhere nearby, followed by stillness again. Then, after a while, another. You remain where you are, eyes still closed, aware without fully waking. The camp is no longer completely still, not yet active, not awake, but no longer at rest. A figure moves quietly in the distance, footsteps soft against the ground, careful, measured, as if not to disturb those still sleeping. You hear the faint sound of fabric being adjusted, a cloak pulled tighter, then released. Another small movement follows, closer this time. Someone sitting up slowly, pausing, then remaining still again. No voices, no calls, only these quiet beginnings. Your breathing changes slightly, not faster, just a little more aware. Your body has not fully awoken, but it senses the shift. The night is loosening, making space. The cool air lingers, but it feels different now, less settled, as if it too is preparing to move on. You open your eyes just slightly, not fully, just enough to let in a faint sense of the world around you. The light is still dim, very dim, but not as deep as before. Shapes begin to return, faint outlines where darkness once held everything. A soldier not far from you rises slowly to his feet, steady, unhurried. He does not look around, he simply stands, as if following something already understood. You close your eyes again briefly, then open them once more, this time a little wider, not fully awake, but closer now. And as these small movements begin to gather quietly across the camp, you feel yourself drifting gently out of rest and back toward the slow rhythm of waking. For a moment, you remain still. Then, without urgency, your hands begin to move. You reach first for your gear, resting where you left it the night before. Nothing has changed. And yet, it feels different now. You lift your helmet slowly, turning it slightly in your hands as if reacquainting yourself with its weight. Then, with a small motion, you place it on. The contact is familiar, settled, not heavy, not light, simply known. Next, your shield. You draw it closer, adjusting your grip until it sits where it should. The movement is practiced, repeated many times before, requiring no thought. Around you, others are doing the same. Straps tightened, cloth adjusted, armor pieces lifted and set into place with quiet precision. No one rushes. No one delays. Each action happens at its own pace, steady and controlled. You reach down to secure a strap, pulling it just enough, then adjusting it again until it feels right. Not perfect, just sufficient. The sound of leather shifting, of small metal pieces settling into position moves gently through the camp. Soft, measured, never sharp. Your body continues to wake as you move. Muscles responding, posture changing, awareness returning in quiet layers. You stand, slowly, not abruptly, allowing your balance to settle before becoming still again. The ground beneath your feet feels firm, unchanged from the night before. But the world around you feels different, more defined, more present. You take a slow breath in, then out. Everything is in place now. Not finished, but ready. And as you stand among the others, each of you moving through the same quiet routine, the sky above begins to shift once more, carrying with it the first light of morning. At first, it is almost nothing, a slight thinning of the darkness, so subtle that you might miss it if you are not already still. But it continues, slowly. The horizon begins to change, not into brightness, but into a softer shade of gray-blue. The stars above start to fade, not at all at once, but one by one, as if gently retreating. You lift your gaze slightly. The sky feels closer now, not as vast as it did in the deep night, but more present, more connected to the ground beneath you. Around you, the camp is no longer at rest, still quiet but awake. Figures stand in place or move slowly through familiar routines. No voices rise above the others, only the soft sounds of preparation. The air remains cool, but it no longer carries the same stillness as before. There is movement in it now, a sense of transition. You notice the outlines of things becoming clearer, tents, gear, the shapes of those beside you. Edges return, details emerge. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels forced. The morning does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds. You take a slow breath, the air feeling slightly different now, lighter somehow. A faint color begins to touch the edge of the horizon, barely visible, but present. You do not stare at it. You simply allow it to exist within your awareness. This is the moment between. Not night, not day. A quiet crossing from one to the other. And as the light continues to grow, gently revealing the world around you, you find yourself standing still, fully awake now, yet held in the same calm that carried you through the night. You do not move right away. Even now, as the light slowly spreads, there is a moment that remains untouched. A pause. A space where nothing is required of you yet. You stand where you are, your breath steady, your body fully awake now, but still. Around you, others stand as well. Not in formation, not yet. Just present in the same quiet awareness. The camp is no longer sleeping, but it has not fully begun. This moment, brief as it is, belongs to no one. It is not part of the night. It is not yet part of the day. It simply exists, in between. You look ahead, not focusing on anything specific. The ground stretches forward, familiar, unchanged. The sky above continues to brighten, gently, without urgency. There is no need to think about what comes next. No need to hold on to the idea of tomorrow anymore. It is here now, quietly, without announcement. Your hands rest where they should. Your gear sits as it must. Everything is in place, without effort. A faint sound begins somewhere in the distance. Not loud, not sudden, just the beginning of movement. But even that does not break the stillness of this moment. You take one slow breath in, then let it out. And in that breath, everything feels balanced, complete in its own quiet way. You are here, fully. Nothing more is needed. And as the first true light of morning settles across the camp, this final moment of stillness gently fades, giving way to the day that has already begun.